So what I did that careful drawing, and now I'm painting all over with a dilute raw sienna. And I'm just leaving the spots that are white, just the fire, and making it a little stronger around the edges. And then I'm going to dry the paper. And so now I'm doing the seat of the chair with burnt sienna. And then I'm going to drop in some ultramarine blue mixed with a touch of burnt sienna, because it's in the photo, it's very dark. The seat of the chair is very dark. So, I mean, I like how that looks, but I just feel like I could have done this right at the end. So in this case, I was doing the burnt sienna, and while it was wet, dropping in the ultramarine that was mixed with a touch of the burnt sienna. So there I took a wet brush and just touched the bottom of the leg of the chair so that some of that color would run down to create a shadow. It didn't run quite as much as I wanted it to, but so see that little swish, and I just touched the bottom of the chair leg so it would create that shadow effect. So now I'm going to work behind the flame. And I decided to the burnt sienna can be kind of orange. So I mixed some Quinacridone Rose with raw sienna. So it looks very much like burnt sienna, but it's a little pinker. And you could use permanent rose instead of Quinacridone Rose. So you can see how the pink spread beyond the more sedentary raw sienna. So there's a little variation in there. So I bring that same color down into the grate that the logs are sitting in. And I also use it on the shadow side of the logs that are in the fire. And I think that works well to kind of treat this part of the painting as monochromatic, rather than changing the hues for the different things that I'm painting. You want things to hang together. And that is the wall of the fireplace that is catching the light. So here I'm using that same combination and just doing it wet and wet, just because there's stonework there, I'm just kind of dropping it in to suggest the surface. And there's light hitting the flagstone right in front of the fire, so I wanted to leave some light spots there. And now I'm dropping a little ultramarine while it's wet, because it's getting into some shadows there. There's richer color on this flagstone that I really like. So now I'm doing, this was paneling to the right of the stonework. So that's kind of a purpley color I mixed and then made it a little browner. And so this is stonework, the shadow side of the stonework. And then I went back here, and this was a mistake too. I should have just left it alone because I'm going to have to fix that later. So now this is the mantle. So you see I mixed ultramarine and the pink, or maybe alizarin. And then I dropped some burnt sienna in, and that really, when you change the hue but keep the value the same, it makes your dark areas much more interesting. So now I'm going to glaze a shadow on the left side of the fireplace on this stonework. So combined with the burnt sienna underneath, it makes a kind of a neutral gray. And I had left the bottom white, so now it looks, it's white in shadow now.
I really like the reflection on the chair. Looks great.
Doesn't that look good?
Yeah.
Thank you.
And you would think it would come from the flame, but it's obviously coming from a light.
Yes, there's obviously some
Right.
light in the room,
Right.
and picking that up. But my intention is to make that fire look really bright and hot and creating this warm light.
So I'm painting a richer color onto this wall. There is too much contrast between the back wall and the side of the fireplace that's catching the light. So this is a mix of Q rose, a little ultramarine, and burnt sienna. And I'm not painting, I'm suggesting the shadows of the fireplace tools, but I'm not painting the actual tools yet. So I want it all to blend and connect with the shadow side of the stonework. I think using this limited palette has really helped make the whole painting cohesive uh, and very warm. Even the shadows are warm. So where I want a stronger dark, I'll use alizarin in my mix. So alizarin and burnt sienna make a really nice warm dark. And here I'm adding it between the rungs of the chair. The flagstone is a beautiful rich color. Now I'm adding a little more richness to the stonework behind the chair. And putting in the metal piece, the brace that I imagine at one time held a pot. So I want to keep the light that hits the flagstone right in front, just adding some texture. Where it needs to be darker, I add ultramarine to the mix. So now I'm starting to work on the rug a little bit. The rug's a little curled at the edges, so it's a little bit of a shadow there. Here I've wet the whole carpet, and I'm going to put in some darks and let it all run down softly. So it's the same colors I've been using, but mixed. And I used a long bristly brush just to blend it a bit. And at the very end, I'm going to do exactly that same thing again, just to deepen this dark shadows on the carpet. So there's almost a circle of deep tone around the fringes of the painting. Now I'm adding dark to the chair. So this is the last bit of detail on the chair. And then I'll be doing the pattern on the rug, which I had carefully drawn, not too much detail in it, but just to make sure I got the perspective right in the pattern. So I'll do the tools last, and then that'll be our cozy fireplace scene.